On this episode of Where's the Line, me and Joseph are going to recap week 2 of college football. Maybe a little bit of overreactions on this episode, but it's episode number 96. Let's get into it.
You are now listening to the Where's the Line podcast with Joseph West and Britt Dillard. Enjoy the show.
Milton gonna take a shot wide open and just strutting in is Keaton. Joe Milton does it again.
Orji again on a blitz. Levis pocket collapses. He's on the run. He just heaves it up. And it's intercepted by Vanderbilt. And let the celebration begin. The streak is over at 26. The Commodores win it.
Talk about Vanderbilt football. All I gotta say, and you're going to hell. Bye.
Another edition of Where's the Line? It is Monday, September 11th, episode number 96.
That day one more time.
It is 9/11. My name is Britt Dillard. It's my good friend Joseph West on the other side. Happy birthday, Joseph.
Let's go. Thank you, Britt. It's my birthday. It's a birthday pod. This is dedication. Only the gritty would record a pod on their birthday. Gotta have grit. Gotta have passion.
Joseph's birth, the most significant thing about September 11th, 2001?
100%. I was 2000.
Oh, might be. Might be.
23 today. Don't short me.
Oh, might be.
Sorry.
But happy birthday, Joseph. Week 2 of college football is over. We're both mad.
I'm pissed.
Week 1 of the NFL is over. So we got a lot to talk about today.
That's what you do.
How you doing, Joseph? How you doing today?
Doing good. It's my birthday. My coworkers really blessed me up. They got me gift cards to Outback. They got me a gift card to Buffalo Wild Wings. They got me all kinds of food, some chicken minis this morning, some Buffalo Wild Wings for lunch. In case you can't tell, I really like wings. Had some Christie cookies. Okay, that was Britt's personal favorite. Had some Oreo balls, homemade, really good. Great, all around great day. Britt, how was your Monday?
It was good. Went to the eye doctor this morning, got my hair cut as well.
Did you work?
Haircut days are awesome. No, I was off work today, so we had a good day.
Well, we don't have a lot of time to chit-chat, Britt. I won't lie to you. There's a lot to get into. Let's start here with Jay Money's The Locksmith new segment. Probably literally the only time we'll ever do this, but that's fine. I made the quote in week 0 and even week 1 that wise men make observations in week 1 while foolish men draw a conclusion. That is from Josh Pate's grandmother. Shout out Granny on that one. But here's 5 teams that I thought that were good in each their own perspective way. Good, obviously, involving what the coach did last year, where the program's at, things like that. So these are not all the same, but these are 5 teams that I thought were good. But their expectations from me will not be met. Once again, 5 teams. Vanderbilt is first. Vanderbilt, once again, not saying they're good in comparison to these other teams, but what the expectations I had from them, I do not believe will be met after this week. Alabama had them losing 1 game. Their expectations will not be met. Tennessee, I do not think their expectations will be met. I had them in the 9 to 10 win range, is what I said on this podcast. Georgia, their expectations will not be met. I had them going undefeated. I will say on this podcast right now, if you'd like to take my bet, I will bet big time money Georgia does not go undefeated in the regular season. They will lose a regular season game, and I would like to bet it's in Neyland. That's besides the point. I'll say that right now. Hot take. Georgia's not going undefeated, and Missouri, Number 5, I had them winning 8 games. They suck too. Their expectations will not be met. They struggled with MTSU. So that's 5 things. Whether you want to say bad takes, whether you want to say observe the information that I had and just misused it, or maybe a good observation, but just is not going to work out. I'm going to talk a little bit about that as we get into the Vanderbilt game. Bad observations versus good observations, and it doesn't always turn out that way, I don't think, as far as when the game plays out. I think you can have a lazy take and hit it, and you can have a bad take and hit it. I'm going to get into that. But first, we're not talking about Vanderbilt. We're going to talk about the Tennessee Volunteers.
I kind of want to hit on what you were talking about. So you said Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, Missouri, and who was the other one?
Vanderbilt.
The one that sticks out to me is Missouri. So many people were so high on Missouri, and I mean I know they've only played 2 weeks, but they look terrible. And I would almost like to add South Carolina to that list as well.
If I didn't name this 5 teams that I thought, and the only reason I only named 5 is because I was going to name like 35, and I didn't have time to get all the numbers for all the teams. These were 5 teams I looked into pretty heavily, enough to put them on the list of why I didn't think they were going to do what I originally thought they were going to do. But Missouri's season is not over, Britt, even though I have them here. As far as they're not going to meet the expectations that I had of 8 wins, I think they're more of a 6-6 or 7-5 team. I think that the Missouri team could lose to Vanderbilt, and that's really saying something after how I'm going to tell you how I feel about Vanderbilt on this podcast. You'll be questioning it, but they could lose to Vandy. They struggled with MTSU. South Carolina struggled with Furman for 3 quarters. The SEC is the worst it's been. If the football we've seen through 2 weeks, Brett, and I think you'll agree with this, if that's the football what we have to look forward to in the SEC, it's the worst they've probably been in quite some time. Maybe not in our lifetime, but in the time that we've been watching football, this may be the worst the SEC has been.
Especially, well, it's only non-conference now, but I mean, you saw South Carolina lose to North Carolina. You saw Alabama lose against Texas. You saw Florida used to lose to Utah. And it's not just the SEC, although I do agree the SEC has looked pretty terrible thus far. But all over the country, I mean, you saw Ohio State struggle in week 1 against Indiana. I mean, there's so many examples all over the country of just a lackluster start overall for a lot of teams. But
I was just going to say that I argued very hard last year that the SEC has, as I froze here, the SEC. Britt, is my mic okay? Technical difficulties here. Okay. As I argued a lot that the difference in between the Big Ten and the SEC was not as big as people would like to say. I'm going to argue at the end of this year that the SEC is not the best conference, and I think that it will weigh itself out by the end of the year, that the SEC has either taken a step backwards or everyone else has taken a step forwards. One of the two.
But speaking of teams that look lackluster, Tennessee this weekend. We'll just get right into it. Tennessee beat Austin Peay. You're still froze. Tennessee beat Austin Peay.
It's ridiculous.
30-13 in Neyland Stadium. It was a night game. The fans are mad. You're good, Joseph. The fans are mad. The fans, we've turned against each other. We're arguing. We're cussing at each other. And I'll say this. I was in Neyland Stadium Saturday night, and it was about to reach Ole Miss 2021 levels. Like, we were pissed. It got that bad. But I'm gonna do it a little bit differently. I'm gonna do my takeaways and then kind of talk about each one of them overall. Biggest takeaway for a lot of people, including me, is concerns with the passing game. Catching and receiving passes was not a strong suit for Tennessee on Saturday night. Joe Milton started 1 for 8. And you saw him come out in the first quarter and throw the ball around a little bit, especially compared to the Virginia game. But 1 for 8, there were 5 straight-up drops Saturday night that were good. And I'm not just saying catchable balls. I'm saying they were balls that have to be caught. They are balls that 99% of the time a D1 athlete catches the ball. We had 5 of those. There were 4 passes that were horrible. Just terrible passes that could not be caught. And I understand people. A phrase that's been thrown around a lot since Saturday is, if the ball hits you in the hands, you have to catch it. And a lot of these people, I just want to say to you, I would love to see you try to catch one pass from Joe Milton right in your chest. And I know we're talking about D1 scholarship athletes that catch balls from Joe Milton every day at practice. But if I stand 10 feet away from a jugs machine on 70 miles an hour, I'm not catching more than 2 out of 10 passes.
Yeah,
And especially if I'm running full speed and he throws it on my back hip, I'm not catching any of them.
Yeah, I would like to agree with the sentiment that if it hits your hands, you should catch the ball. However, if a pass is behind you and you're running full speed, like I don't know exactly the plays that Britt are referring to, so I'm not going to comment on those particular plays, but he just referenced behind you. That is a lot harder than just catching a ball right out in front of you. Like, just because there's a lot of heat on it and you're 8 yards away, and I get it should have been thrown softer, but if it's out in front of you, you should catch it. Like, you're a D1 athlete. You got to catch that ball. But you also have to realize that if Joe Milton slings it 75 miles per hour, that's not really, even though it is on the receiver some, it's on the quarterback. And so I like I said, I think I agree with it 90% of the time. I think most of the time it's just case by jury. I would look at it and be like, yeah, the receiver definitely has to catch that. But yeah. I just wanted to say that too.
And I'm not at all in the camp of this game. The struggles in the passing game were Joe Milton's fault. I think it was 50-50. I think I'm concerned about the receiving. And we saw Ramel Keaton drop a pass in the first game. And then we saw pretty much everybody drop a pass in this game Saturday night. But it is concerning. Especially Joe Milton is a quarterback that's not going to be perfect. Like, there are going to be plenty of passes that hit somebody's hip running across the middle of the field, or are too high, especially, or too low. We saw a few on Saturday. We cannot be inconsistent in catching those balls. We can't have Joe Milton and our receivers both be inconsistent at the same time, and that's what we saw Saturday. But I mean, and I'll get into this a little bit more after the 1 for 8. Joe went 20 for 25. So whatever you want to chalk that up to, I don't know. I put on here, catch the ball crowd is almost as stupid as throw the ball crowd. I've said on here several times, the throw the ball crowd is stupid. And don't be a casual. Like, for example, Squirrel White is 5'8" or 10, and he had to jump up in the middle of the field to catch a ball off his hands. Squirrel ain't catching that ball. I don't care if it hits both of his palms. He ain't catching it. So you are 5'10", 300 pounds, and you're an accountant. I don't need you telling Squirrel White that he has to catch that ball. Okay, moving on. The defense, number 2, defense has improved. 100% the defense has improved. Tennessee is leading the nation in sacks and tackles per loss per game. Leading the nation. Kamal Hadden has improved. He has improved. He's not perfect, but he is better. And here's another problem I have with fans, with casuals, I'll call them.
Casuals.
If every cornerback on the team, every single play, none of them turn their head to look at the ball, they don't all just happen to do that. That's the way they're coached to play the game.
I disagree. I disagree with this, and I was gonna actually bring this up. I'm glad you did.
Because if Willie Martinez, unless he's just an idiot, our secondary coach, all he has to do is tell them one time to turn around, and if you don't do it, you're coming out of the game, and they will do it. They are coached to do that.
See, I think this is a horrible take by Britt, and not in a mean way whatsoever, right? But the refs have consistently said, especially now in college football, in NFL 100 times worse than 3 years ago, if you do not turn your head, the flag is coming out. That is what the refs say in college football. If you don't turn your head and there's a play to be made on the ball, the flag is coming out. So if their coach is teaching them not to turn their head, he's an idiot and should be fired yesterday.
Well,
So
that's what
that's
he is
my
doing,
take
and
on
he's
that.
already been fired once. That's what he is doing because there's no shot that every single corner on the team makes the same mistake every single play. There's
I
no
say
shot.
this. I say the same thing, but it's just true at this point. I know it sounds insane to say out loud, but I'm going to talk about a very specific play in the Vanderbilt game that I'm going to try not to touch on right now about not turning your head and why it doesn't make sense not to turn your head on every play. Now, don't get me wrong. Cornerbacks are the hardest job on the football field. It's not quarterback. It's not offensive or defensive lineman. It's corner. You have to stay with the best athletes on the planet, and you have to try to follow them around without grabbing them past 5 yards. And some of them are freaking huge and strong. And you got to try to not let them push you around, stay with them. And then also, last second, when you think the ball's coming and hope they're not faking you out, you have to try to look back to the quarterback and make a play on the ball.
Yeah.
It's the hardest job in sports.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that it's not stupid. Like, I think they need to turn their head around. You saw Kamal Hadden do it one play and he had an interception. I'm not saying that they shouldn't do that. I'm just saying it's not on them. And Kamal Hadden is the most hated player on this team. And that used to be me. I used to be that guy. But at this point, I'm about to change my Twitter to Kamal Hadden Protector. Because I'm sick of people dogging on Kamal Hadden. He's doing his best. He did fine Saturday. He had 2 pass interferences, not on him, underthrown balls. But if he'd have turned his head, it wouldn't have been PI. But stop crapping on Kamal Hadden. That's point number 2. Number 3, play calling. And this is where I don't know if I should be concerned or in wait-and-see mode. Out of 31 passes Joe Milton threw, 18 were at or behind the line of scrimmage. We took 0 shots downfield. So through 2 games, we have taken 2 shots downfield. And by downfield, I'm meaning like
20 plus.
you're uncorking one trying to score a touchdown.
Oh, okay.
I'd say 30 plus yards. We've taken 2
Okay.
shots downfield. And they asked Josh Heupel about it in his press conference, and he said the deep shots aren't there. That was his answer. He said they're not there. So I don't know if I should be concerned about that. I put on Twitter, I don't know if we should be, as Tennessee fans, concerned. Was the success the last 2 years partly because of Alex Golish, our offensive coordinator that's not with us anymore? He's still alive, but he's not on the staff. I don't know. I don't know if we should be concerned about that. I've got some more things to talk about, Joseph. Do you have anything to say?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, I have my takeaways as well. I have had limited time to watch this game getting back on Sunday from North Carolina. So, and obviously recording Monday night. Where do I start? I'll just go ahead and give my takeaways too. I guess we can talk about them. One, I put, if I was a Tennessee, I'm obviously doing these takeaways as if I was a Tennessee fan. One, I put the passing game. Simply put, I agree with Britt that there should be worry. Although I'm worrying in a different little bit light of Britt. He's worrying about the play caller. Maybe some of the credit was Alex Golish, and don't get me wrong, that could 100% be true, and I could be in the wrong on the other side. But right now, what I think Tennessee is really missing is Hendon Hooker and Jalen Hyatt. And with that being said, Jalen Hyatt has elite speed. We know that. I don't think I have to tell anyone that. And Hendon Hooker had great deep ball accuracy, something you're going to find in a handful of college quarterbacks throughout the nation in a year. Hendon Hooker was elite at throwing the deep ball and throwing it in stride. So with that being said, I think that the play calling is more or less of Alex Golish and Josh Heupel and more about Joe Milton being a quarterback and showing that he doesn't have the faith for Joe Milton to make the right decisions on complex route trees. And so when a receiver can call his own route midway through, does he have faith that Milton can put it where it's gonna hurt the defense or where it's gonna hurt Tennessee? And I don't think he does. And I think that's why you're gonna see 18 passes a game behind her at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, Joey Housley, our offensive coordinator, he used this verbiage. He said that Joe Milton had transitioned from being a pass thrower to a quarterback, and I do not see it. Joe Milton, and let's take off the orange-colored glasses, Joe Milton is the best thrower of the football on the planet. He can throw a football better than anyone alive, and I believe that.
Maybe throw it further.
Joe Milton is not a good quarterback. It's simple as that. He is not a good quarterback, and we were spoiled by Hendon Hooker. I'm not saying you pull Joe Milton. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying this guy's played a lot of football. This is his 6th year of big-time college football. This isn't something that gets cleaned up in a week of practice. This isn't an adjustment you can make on the fly. Yes. And that's why I'm glad I'm not Josh Heupel. Because think about it. If you pull the plug on Joe Milton, you're pulling the plug on his whole career. He's done. Unless an NFL team wants to take a complete flyer on just Joe Milton's raw talent. I mean, you're killing his career. He's done. So that's not what I'm saying we should do. I don't think Nico's ready, especially to have his first start as a true freshman in the swamp. That's crazy. But, yeah, I agree with what you're saying.
Point number 2 is also Joe Milton surrounding. I'm sorry, Tennessee fans, if you got on here expected me to love on Joe Milton. First of all, the whole game was not on him. I agree with Brett 100%. But the point number 2 is Joe Milton. And it's literally just Joe Milton. Here's his problem. I agree, first of all, with what Brett said 100%. He's been in college 6 years. Any problem that he has now is unfixable. Listen, I tried to tell UT fans before the season started. Joe Milton doesn't change in year 6. He wasn't going to change 2 months ago, and he's not changing now. Joe Milton's problem is he doesn't believe he's the guy. He doesn't walk into the stadium thinking, I am the best quarterback on the field. And you were playing Austin Peay. I just wanted to remind you. Joe Milton doesn't believe he's the man, and that's unfixable. You either have that or you don't. He doesn't have it. He's huge. He's got the mold. Everything. When I think a moxie quarterback, a quarterback with swagger who would run over you, and then you show me a picture of Joe Milton, that's him. But he doesn't think that, so it doesn't matter what Joseph thinks. Joe Milton doesn't believe he's the man. UT fans, I'm sorry. I think you're in for a longer season than we thought. Because I say me too, because I predicted you at 9 to 10 wins.
Yeah,
I said 9-3, and I was on the fence of 10-2. Sorry, Brett. Didn't mean to cut you off.
I think Joe Milton does think he's the man until kickoff.
When the snap starts. And there's some guys that just aren't gamers. They'll look great in practice. They'll be great. They're just not meant to be under the lights. And there's some guys like that.
And I seriously didn't plan on coming on here, and I'm not trying to dog Joe Milton. I love Joe Milton. I respect Joe Milton. If anything, I respect him. But and I'm not at all dogging his ability. We've seen Joe Milton make amazing throws. He made great throws on Saturday. They were dropped, but they were great throws. In the Clemson game, I mean, he made great throws. Joe Milton can win 9 games this year, but he could also lose 5. It's his inconsistency that I'm hard on, not his ability. Yeah. It's his inconsistency. But go ahead.
My takeaway number 3 was, and I'm a little bit more lenient, I guess, or not as lenient as Brett with the defense. I said the defense may have taken a step forward. I think the first week the offense was really bad, the offensive line in particular. And it was hard for me to gauge what Tennessee's defense had. And then this week, you saw busted plays, really the electric plays that cost Tennessee's defensive points. So I just couldn't. I can't put a finger on Tennessee's defense yet. So I'm going to hold off on saying whether I think they're much improved or as bad as last year. And I'm just going to say that Tennessee's defense may have taken a step forward, but the offense took a bigger step backwards. And that was my biggest question mark coming into the season was, did they or did they not? And I'm going to be very doom and gloom on this podcast, so I'm sorry, Tennessee fans. In advance, you probably don't deserve all the doom and gloom that I'm giving you. You're getting it nonetheless. But, yeah, I think that the defense, as much as they could have taken a step forward. Listen, Hendon Hooker didn't lose Tennessee a single game while he was at quarterback. I want you to think back as a Tennessee fan. I know Brett would agree with this. I think he would agree with this 100%. Every time I ever watched Hendon Hooker, he didn't lose you any games, and he won you a bunch. Joe Milton is not going to win you a lot of football games. Well, I take that back. Joe Milton can win you football games, but I think he's going to lose more than he wins you. You hear this quarterbacks a lot. Well, guys like Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr, they're not going to win you a lot of football games, but they're not going to lose you a lot, right? They're going to be game managers. That's pretty, like, Hendon Hooker had the explosive play type. I think it was part of Josh Heupel's offense, but Hendon Hooker was a game manager. He knew what he had to do, went out there, he executed the game plan, and he did not turn the ball over. The dude was electric.
Yeah,
Like-
in any game with Hendon Hooker at quarterback, even the South Carolina game, you're getting throttled, and in the back of your mind, you're like, hey, we've got Hendon Hooker. We've got Jalen Hyatt. We could still win.
And you want to know something crazy, Brett? Outside of like 10 UT fans that I know, I don't think UT fans respected Hendon Hooker enough. I think they give Heupel almost too much credit, if that's possible, winning 10 games in your, second year, right? So, like, wait, was it year 1 or 2?
2.
He's in year 3, right? This year? Okay. In year 2, winning 10 games, maybe that's impossible. And, if someone did that at Vanderbilt, I would say it's impossible to give them too much credit. But Hendon Hooker was that good at making decisions with the football and not letting his errant throws turn into picks. Like, he was that good. How many picks did he throw last year? Do we know? Is it like 2?
3. I think it was 3.
Yeah, 3 picks in 12 games playing in the best conference in football last year.
6.
Yes. Thank you for the math, Britt. 3 + 3 is 6.
Yeah, I don't know why she did that, but I just wanted to make some statements because I know some people are going to be mad at me, specifically brother Donald Davis. I just some statements you made a few minutes ago about the offensive line and the defense. Offensive line, I mean, we're averaging over 250 rushing yards a game.
Oh, I'm sorry. If I didn't make that clear, I was speaking on Virginia's offensive line.
Okay.
Not Tennessee's. I apologize.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to dunk on you or anything, but
No.
Tennessee's starting 11 defense has yet to allow a touchdown this year. So I've been pleased with both units, and our offensive line is getting their captain back with Cooper Mays allegedly on Saturday. But I've got a few more points. One thing that concerns me really quickly. We've seen last year that Tennessee defensively can have off games. South Carolina, the first half against Pittsburgh. We also know that Joe Milton is inconsistent. If we start the trend of our receivers being inconsistent, that's bad. That's bad. You can have one of those 3 a game. You can't have 2. You can't have our defense off and Joe Milton off. You can't have our receivers and Joe Milton off. You can't have our receivers and our defense off. You can't have any combination of 2. So that concerns me. Austin Peay, you can go to hell. I hate
That's
Austin
terrible.
Peay. I don't care if I'm terrible sometimes.
That's terrible.
Austin Peay, you had one job. And that was to come in, get your ass beat, and go cash the check. That was your job. And we didn't need y'all to come in here, your coach on some kind of substance. I'll say that. Come in acting like a complete idiot. Bush League. That's the word that comes to my mind, Bush League. We're sending offensive linemen in motion to receiver. We've got 6 people in motion. We're going for it every 4th down. We're onside kicking. We're chop blocking. We're slamming Warren Burrell's head into the ground. We're acting like complete fools. I'll say this. I hope Austin Peay, I hope they lose their football program because every athletic director in the country watches this game and says, I don't want them to come play us. If they're going to play like that,
May I interject?
I don't want it. Go ahead.
First of all, me and Britt differ here, not in principle, but in a different viewpoint. If I'm Austin Peay's head coach, we never punt the ball against Tennessee, ever. We go for it on every single 4th down. We do chop block. We're hitting you low because we're doing whatever we can to win the game. Listen, when you're the head coach, I do not give a crap what anyone says. If as a head coach, you go into every game thinking I'm going to win. I don't give a crap if it's ETSU versus Vanderbilt. Great example. Austin Peay versus Tennessee, Akron versus Bama, on and so forth. Go into the game thinking you're going to win, and if you know you can't block, if you know you can't block their defensive line, cut them. Until they say one-on-one you can't go low anymore. For example, when Georgia Tech ran the triple option, they did it 90% of their plays. Until the rules say you can't go low at all one-on-one no more, then by all means, if you can't block them, it's kind of dirty. It's kind of dirty. And like when one of your offensive or defensive linemen get hurt about it, I'm screaming about how it's dirty. Do not get me wrong. But until they say you can't do it one-on-one, obviously you can't do it 2-on-1 right now. That is a chop block, and I said you should do those, but you shouldn't because it's a penalty. I didn't mean it. But until you can't do it one-on-one and just go low like that, then, which there are rules that kind of are in the gray on that to be straight. But my point is just that, like, I disagree with Britt, not in the point of they shouldn't come into Tennessee and play dirty and injure players or slam players' heads into the ground. I don't know what Britt's referring to. Like I said, I didn't get to watch every snap of the game. But you should, I think, do anything you can to win. And if you think that punting does no good for your team, then by all means, go for it on 4th and 2 from your own 7, for all I care.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's games like this that got Cedric Tillman hurt. And like Austin Peay, they don't even deserve to step foot in Neyland Stadium. They don't deserve. They're playing a different sport than we are. And we gave them the privilege of playing us, and they act like complete idiots.
That's
they act
crazy.
Like complete bums, complete R words. I'll say that.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
They can come in and act like a bunch of fools, and I'm sick of it. I hope we never play them again.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with hoping that, but
I'm done. Tennessee plays Florida Saturday.
Tennessee does play Florida. Open is 8.5-point favorites in the swamp. So that's where it's at early. Moving on, Tennessee, Austin Peay. Also, score of that game, just to read that out, I don't think we ever read it, was 30-13 was the final score. Tennessee did obviously still win by, pretty good amount of points there, but not what you want when you're playing Austin Peay.
Bad.
Obviously.
I hope it didn't sound like I'm making excuses. Tennessee looked horrible Saturday. I just want that to be known.
Yeah. I didn't think Tennessee looked very good either. But games like this are going to happen when you don't have an automatic guy like Hooker. I don't think I can stress that point enough. Honestly, I'm not here, by the way, to clarify. I'm not here to crap on Joe Milton, tell you that he's trash or tell you that he's tragic. I'm here to tell you that the worries that we had fall season, fall sports, whatever, fall camp, and even in the summer, in the spring, when I would talk about Joe Milton, I talked about him being inconsistent and how he was that way at Michigan. He was that way the first time he started for Tennessee, and I just didn't know if it could be fixed. So I just wanted to say that. I'm not here to crap on Milton. Moving on, Vanderbilt played Wake Forest in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I did attend. Thank you. I had several people check in, make sure I made it there okay and made it back. Thank you for that. Vanderbilt lost this game 36-20. We did not. This was the only loss on my betting streak. On my betting slip. Out of the 5 games, I was 2 games off, both Vanderbilt plus Vanderbilt 10.5, one Vanderbilt plus 14.5. I was both of those spreads away from winning just over $1,000 this weekend in parlays. If you listen to me, you hit every bet. I literally had somebody text me, shout out Nathan Hurd. He said, I'm taking every game that you took except for Vandy, and he cashed out this weekend. So, maybe not take the homer pick. Although I thought it was a lock. Sorry, guys. Anyways, 36-20 to talk about the game. Gonna get down bad here for a second. It's okay. It's disheartening, man. It is. It's disheartening, and I think that's the best way, the biggest word you can use to talk about this program, to talk about this team. It's disheartening.
Okay, it sounds like Joseph's crying, but I'm looking at him. He's not. Your voice was shaking. It sounded like
I'm not crying. I'm sorry. My voice may still be going honestly in and out. If you think I'm crying, I do take this really seriously. Maybe not that seriously. Not to cry over a Wake Forest lost at least. But listen, Vanderbilt started out this game. I'm just going to go through some key plays here. Vanderbilt started out this game. very first quarter, ran 3 plays on 3rd down and 4 from Wake Forest from our own 28. A.J. Swan dropped back, threw a pass, double coverage to Logan Kyle. It was intercepted, and Wake Forest returned that to Vanderbilt's 10. So right off the bat, with 13:30 to go, you are fixing to be down 7-0. I talked about giving Wake Forest the ball in spots where when they get it on their own 13, what's the chances of your defense making them kick a field goal? Well, I'll tell you. You go the first 2 downs, it's 3rd down and goal from the 6, and the game gets delayed. Lightning's within 8 miles, evacuate the stadium. Hour and a half later, we come back. You know, I had already drove all that way. I stuck it out. We come back. It's 3rd and goal. We force an incomplete pass. Good stand by the defense. Hold them to a field goal. Just to stay there for a second, the defense did his job early. A.J. Swan made a mistake. He didn't get a good read. He tried to read it pre-snap, predetermined where he was going with the ball, which has been his problem, and threw a pick. Before we go any further, I wanted to start with this, and I didn't look down at my notes. Britt, if I told you before the game started that A.J. Swan goes 26 for 39 with 314 yards passing, 3 touchdowns and 2 picks, but the 2 picks that he throws only leads to 3 points for Wake Forest, what would you have said? His 2 picks only led to 3 points.
I would take that.
You would say Vanderbilt won, right? Or you would feel pretty confidently that if he had those numbers,
I would take that.
We win. Well, we didn't win, and even though the score makes it seem like it was possibly a blowout, it really wasn't. I mean, it was close there to the end. Man, disheartening. Like it's hard to even get through the plays because, like, when I look at them, I'm just sitting here down bad. Vanderbilt pinned Wake a few times. Like I said, they scored a field goal. In the second quarter with 13 to go. Wake Forest goes up 10-0. And right off the bat, you're thinking this could be a long day. Vanderbilt strikes back really fast. In 2 minutes, we throw it with 10 minutes and 11 seconds to go before halftime. A.J. Swan throws a touchdown pass to Will Sheppard. Hell of a catch. Will Sheppard is literally him. He's the best wide receiver in the SEC, and I would hate to know that anyone on this planet thinks differently than that because you're insane. The dude is amazing and honestly this team doesn't deserve Will Sheppard because that's how good he is. But we score really quickly. Wake Forest comes back down and scores a touchdown to go up 17-7 with 3:27 to go before half. And Vanderbilt scores with 1:52 to go before half. Another touchdown pass to Will Sheppard from A.J. Swan. And Vanderbilt in 40 seconds gets a stop, a 3-and-out. There's 1:02 to go before halftime. The score is 17-14. This is where you thought that the worst thing has happened. Vanderbilt's defense has made a stand. It's 17-14. Wake Forest gets the ball after half, and you're thinking Vanderbilt's going to get the ball. The offense has just rolled 2 possessions to the end zone with Will Sheppard making red zone catches. May I remind you, he's unstoppable. They punt it. It's a terrible-ass punt. It's horrible. It goes from Wake Forest he punted it 30 yards. He punted the ball 30 yards. Will Sheppard runs up to catch it. Tyson Russell gets blocked into him, cuts his legs out. He gets kind of hit up in the air. Ball comes out. Fumble 6 to the house. No one in sight. To make it worse, Vanderbilt transfer Brendan Harris freaking picked it up and ran it to the crib. Just like that, 24-14. We come out. Defense holds them to a field goal in the third quarter. And this is where the game really gets interesting to me. You hold them to a field goal with 12:36 to go in the third. Vanderbilt gets the ball. Sucks. Let's just be honest. Offense sucked for 2 drives. I almost said Missouri. Wake Forest has the ball at the 1-yard line. They are fixing to go up But it's 27-14. They're about to go up 3 scores. Okay? They're about to go up 3 scores. CJ Taylor lays the damn wood on this kid at the half-yard line. He fumbles. Vanderbilt recovers. We've got the ball at the 1-yard line. Okay? I'm going bananas. Because the game goes from being over to you're down 2 scores. Let's make a drive, cut it to 6, and see if we can't win this damn game. After all the shit that's happened, Will Shepherd literally got clipped and fumbles the ball, which you don't see that man do often. I've seen him drop a few, but he don't fumble punts much. Gets clipped, just so freaking unlucky. You think the game's over. No, you're back. Vanderbilt drives 98 yards down the field. Okay, great 40-yard run by Patrick Smith. The run game's back. The O-line's hop. Swan's throwing darts. It looks like we're clicking on all freaking cylinders. We get down to the 1-yard line and we cannot punch it in. Get stuffed from the 1 3 times in a row against Wake Forest. And in my opinion, was it because the offensive line sucked? Was it because A.J. Swan didn't make the right decision? It was nothing besides a brain-dead millionaire. That's it. Write that down in your book. Brain-dead freaking millionaires. You need 1 yard. 1 yard. Put in your third-string quarterback named Walter Taylor, who is 6'8", 260. Put some fatso behind him like me and say, take the snap under center, and as soon as he does, get your fat ass behind him and get him in the end zone. It's not hard. It's common sense. My mom would say that. No, let's get in the shotgun for 3 plays. So on 3rd down and goal, it's a snap to the running back by accident, and he has to jump up and catch it. You're an idiot. You turn a 1-yard play into a 6-yard play for no damn reason besides you're stupid. That's the only thing I can think of. You're an idiot. And that is so frustrating to know that you can't get a freaking yard because your coaching staff is stupid. Joey Lynch should have been fired on the spot. If I'm the AD, I go tell Clark Lee, it's his job or yours. You decide. And he should decide because it is. It's his job, your buddy Joey, fire his ass. If Britt Dillard's my best friend, and he is, and we're at work together, we're on a coaching staff together, and he's not doing his job, and I'm his boss, I'm as much as it sucks, I'm gonna have to go to Britt and say, listen, Britt, you're making me look bad. Either do your damn job or get the hell out. That's your 2 options, Britt. Because it is. I don't care if he's your friend. Listen, Nick Howell doesn't know how to call a defense. His defensive scheme should be questioned. You're sending blitzes from the long side, from a far corner blitz, from the far side of the field, knowing your corners can't hold up. The blitz is never going to get home. I know that. You know that. Like, what is going on? It's just so frustrating. So we got stopped. Wake Forest drives down, scores, makes it 33-14. After that, who cares? Let's be honest here. Vanderbilt was never coming back after they got stuffed at the goal line. I said all that to say this. This was a very winnable game for Vanderbilt. If Vanderbilt doesn't fumble the punt, my honest opinion, we win this game. Vanderbilt doesn't get stuffed at the 1, I still think they win the game. The sideline still had all the energy. They knew they were the better team. We're a more talented team than Wake Forest, and anyone who doesn't think so, shove it up your own ass. I do not care. I do not care if you think Vanderbilt is less talented than Wake Forest, because we're not. Look at the recruiting rankings. Look at how our players were blowing by them. I don't care. We lost this game because of execution. You didn't execute, and your coaching staff let you down a few times, especially the secondary coach. He's a bum. Running B.J. Anderson out there every play. Also, turn your freaking head around. This is what I was going to get to earlier. I was trying not to get pissed about it. B.J. Anderson has a ball 6 yards underthrown. It's an easy interception. He's playing drop back zone. He has 1 job. That's it. 1 job is the deep receiver. That's all he's got. 1 simple job. And instead of looking back towards the ball and having an easy interception and returning it for days, there's no one else around except for 3 Vanderbilt players who are going to lay down some wood for you. No. Let me just freaking spear the receiver like Roman Reigns in WWE and get a DPI on a 3rd down and forever. You idiot. Absolute bum. If I see 26 run back out on the field, I'm going to riot. Nick Howell's head, Clark Lee's head, Dan Jackson's head. I don't care whose head I got to call for. Somebody's got to go. You're an idiot. Get 26 off the field. I'd rather see a freshman get burnt every play than see 26 step back out on the field. Dude's worse than Kamal Hadden, and I think Kamal Hadden's a bum. Sorry, Britt. I know we're not supposed to be hating on him. But, oh my gosh.
Just got astray. That was
I
unnecessary.
had to take a drink of water. But, like, and I promise, Britt is going to talk right after this. I apologize, Britt.
I don't have none. I didn't watch it. Can I be honest? I didn't watch it.
Okay, Britt didn't watch it. He has nothing to say. That's amazing. So that means he just gets to shut up for a few more minutes and listen to me. Vanderbilt wins this game
Happy
8 out of
birthday,
10 times. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me to calm down. Vanderbilt wins this game 8 out of 10 times. And Vanderbilt can go on to still beat these teams. I just want to remind everyone, because this is how bad they've looked. Kentucky, Missouri, Florida is on the fence, in my opinion. I don't know if we can beat Florida. Auburn and South Carolina. I honestly might feel better about beating South Carolina right now. Those are all winnable games. If Vanderbilt beats UNLV and wins four of those games, you're 7-5. You're at the prediction that I said. But I'm going to look back at this game and say this was such a freaking wasted opportunity that you couldn't make 6-6, 7-5, or you couldn't make 7-5, 8-4, or you couldn't make 5-7, 6-6. I'm going to look back and point at this game and say this game was because some of the players didn't show up. Also, CJ Taylor was pissed, I sat right behind the defensive bench, ripping into the whole entire defense and told them pretty much they were sorry. Pretty much told half the team they were sorry. Like, dude let him know what he thought. And I was a supporter. I was clapping, get him, CJ. Let's go, baby. He's got that dog. Will Shepherd's got that dog. I question some of the dog of the other players. I do. I question some of the dog, some of the grit. Can I question them for a second? And, like, a lot of Vanderbilt fans are still doing what UT fans were doing. UT fans are doing what Vanderbilt fans were doing last week. And last week, it was acceptable. Last week, it's acceptable to say, nothing was accounted for. It was 2 preseason games. But if you're still pumping sunshine after losing that game 36-20, I'm questioning what you're talking about. Do we want Vanderbilt to get better or not? Do we or not?
Well, everything's fine until you lose. Everything we can work on.
Bingo.
We can work it out. They're holding back the play calling. He'll figure it out. All that's fine until you lose a game.
But when you do, stop saying it. It's no longer useful. Stop saying it. So, I say all that to say that I don't still know about this Vanderbilt team. They haven't played a good football game all year. This isn't the team I expected to watch. They've shown great flashes. I think A.J. Swan showed in the Wake Forest game, Britt. I hope you get an opportunity to go back and watch it. A.J. Swan made next-level throws. He made NFL throws. Jaden McGowan has NFL speed. Maybe not NFL size. And he's probably not an NFL player. But he's got the speed to be in the NFL. That's what I'm saying. And Will Shepherd is an NFL receiver. London Humphreys, true freshman from CPA, was freshman of the week on PFF's highly rated players. Had over 100-yard receiving. Had a touchdown. Like, this team has shown great flashes. And the defense has shown flashes too. But it's just like, you can't, it's hard to get excited about anything because, we opened up as 2-point favorites over UNLV.
That's discouraging.
What do y'all want me to say? Like, I'm at a very complex road right now. There's a lot of Vanderbilt fans really blaming Clark Lee and his staff, and while I understand the point, I'm not there yet. And there's another portion blaming all execution. Will Shepherd can't fumble the punt, which I agree with. The O-line's got a block to get in from the one, and then it doesn't matter if you QB sneaking in from the shotgun. And while I agree, I just don't think either side's right. I think you just got to find a happy middle and say, look, the coaching staff hasn't done their best. The players haven't done their best either, though, up to this point. So you're going to see what happens the rest of the season. And when the season's done and the record's shown, I'm going to tell you whether I think we got better or worse. And if the answer's not better, then I start telling you who's got to go on the coaching staff. And for now, I think it's Nick Howell and Joey Lynch. I think you got to let go of both coordinators. Screw both of them. Screw Dan Jackson. Okay, screw all 3 of those guys. They all have to go. Bring in new guys, and you'll let them work from there. But that's just where it's at right now. All the teams I thought were good freaking suck. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, let me choose joy here for a second. So when we did our predictions, I had Tennessee at 9-3, Vandy at, I can't remember if I said 6-6. I made
6-6,
and I made those assumptions I made that prediction with the thought that a lot of people are pumping up Kentucky and Missouri before the season. We thought that South Carolina was going to be really improved, and those teams could still improve. And Tennessee's sake, I mean, Alabama's Alabama, and we all thought Florida would suck, and they do. But I made those predictions with at least 3 games for both of us being tougher than I think they actually are going to be.
Agreed.
So although both of our teams may not be exactly where we envisioned, I think Tennessee's schedule is easy this year.
There's a road to recovery for me. That's what I called it yesterday, was my road to recovery, was that the SEC was not as good as I thought it was. Like, Kentucky's worse than I thought they were going to be. Missouri's worse than I thought they were going to be. South Carolina looks to be worse than I thought they were going to be. Tennessee also looks worse than I thought they were going to be. Georgia looks worse than I thought they were going to be.
Yeah, the SEC East is not much better than it was in 2016. It's not much better.
Except Georgia's a lot better than they were in 16.
Well, I think in 16, Florida and Tennessee were both solid teams, and I think that evens it out. Georgia being as good as they are.
If you look at the East right now, I think that outside of Georgia, maybe Tennessee, like, I don't see any unwinnable games. Not left. Not after those two. Like, South Carolina, pretty trash. Away, though, I don't feel great about it. Same thing about the Swamp. Auburn, though, barely edging out California, barely beat them. I mean, shit, we just lost by 16 points to Wake Forest. But I'm just saying, if there was anything that gave me a glimmer of hope outside of a few young guys showing spurts, then it was that. It was just that I think that Vanderbilt can win some games. And I will say the one difference in between me crapping on like Joe Milton and me crapping on Vanderbilt's offense, and I'm not comparing the two. They're on 2 completely different levels. That's not the point, though. The point is that, like, Vanderbilt's offense's problem is literally clicking. Like, they just haven't clicked. That's what it looks like. They click in spurts, but they just can't put it all together for a full game. That is fixable. And that probably does happen eventually. There's probably a game this season. It could be Missouri. It could be Kentucky. It could be Tennessee. It won't be Georgia. It could be anyone else besides Georgia because their defense is what it is. That Vanderbilt's offense could come out and drop 49 on somebody, and I would be like, this is what I expected all year. I expected A.J. Swan to sling it around, Shepard to go for 150, him to have some help from McGowan and Humphreys and Skinner. That's what I expected, and I think it will happen. There will be a game you don't expect Vanderbilt to win. The offense goes crazy, and they win it. That's where I'm at. I'm not very high on Vanderbilt right now. I think we could miss a bowl game for crying out loud, and I had us having 7 wins. So, you know, we'll see. It's super doom and gloom right now, though, if you ask me. Not just for me, but I think if you're a South Carolina fan, you don't feel great. If you're a Kentucky fan, you don't feel great. If you're a Tennessee fan, you don't feel great. If you're a Missouri fan, you really don't feel great. If you're a Vanderbilt fan, you don't feel great. I mean, I don't see how anybody can be very encouraged after you beat Furman by 2 scores, you beat California by 4, you beat who did Kentucky even play, like Eastern Kentucky or something? They barely beat them. Like, how do you feel good?
Yeah. Looking at our picks last week, I went 3 for 5. Joseph, you went 4 for 5. So you're winning 6-7 right now on the year. We'll give our picks for this weekend. That episode will come out on Friday. Hopefully, that should be the case.
Thursday.
Come out Thursday or Friday, and then we'll get into week 3. Florida game, UNLV game. We'll be more optimistic, maybe. I don't know. It's Florida week. It's Florida week.
It is Florida week. Got some interesting bets for the Florida game. That'll be cool to see how that unfolds.
Yeah, Matt O'Neill, I'm coming for that ass.
Yeah, that's all he's going to say. Don't give no spoilers on what might happen, but some funny stuff might get to happen here on the pod. And, you know, Vanderbilt plays UNLV. Go get a dub. That's all I'm going to say about that right now. Spread opened up at -2.5 to the doors. UT spread opened at -8.5 for the Vols. So both teams are expecting to win per Vegas. We'll see how it pans out. Can't wait to get to the breakdown here in the next few days.
Yeah, if you're a Tennessee fan, you're undefeated. Don't overreact too much. I know I said a lot this podcast negative. Don't be too hard on me, guys. I'm just speaking my mind. I'm just trying to tell the truth. But at the end of the day, I'm going to choose joy.
I have 100% overreacted to week 2 of college football. 100%. Yeah. And I've tried to tell myself that. It doesn't matter, though. It's doom and gloom for Earth right now. If you're an SEC football fan, I'm sorry. We'll come back better at week 3, maybe. I just don't know yet. Regardless, we don't even care because it has been Joseph West and Britt Dillard here on Where's the Line, episode number 96.
96.
Anchor down. No matter what, go Doors. You know what it is.
Go Vols. Speak Florida.
#BUNLV.